Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard after action report. So, this after action report is to follow on from the video battle report that I put up earlier in the week, where the impossible happened. An Imperial Guard 8th edition army lost a game of Warhammer 40k. Holy shit! Quickly tell the forums they were wrong because the impossible has happened. I joke, obviously. I hope that this battle report will be useful to dispel some of the myths and preconceptions about the Guard in 8th edition. So, there's a lot to talk about in this after action. There's a slight risk that this after action report could go on longer than the actual battle report itself. I'll try and not let that be the case. I'll try and keep the waffle down to a minimum. So, let's dive straight into it. First thing I want to mention, I want to get it out of the way because I don't want people to jump to conclusions about the battle report, which is the topic of luck in that battle. I'm just going to say it. I do not think that I lost that battle due to luck. I think it was a deciding factor. I think it made an impact on the game. But I do not think that I lost that game solely due to luck, and I don't think it was the main reason. I want to say that straight away. So the reason I want to say that is because if I just came on here and bullshitted and blamed the dice rolls for my loss, we wouldn't learn anything from that. It wouldn't be true. We wouldn't learn anything from it, and it would cheapen the victory that my opponent had. My opponent played his ass off to get that victory. When I had that relic in my back line surrounded by 56 infantry, my opponent was ready to shake my hand, but he didn't. He kept on playing, he played fucking hard, and he pulled out a win. Now, I would say the best way of summing it up is I think luck did help my opponent win, but I don't think it lost me the game. I think that's the best way of saying it. We both agreed afterwards that his assault cannons were rolling pretty hot that game. And my heavy weapons were rolling pretty stinky. But, like I said, that's it. There was a bit of, there was, some bad luck on my end, some good luck on his, but it wasn't like every shot he fired, he hit, he killed. It wasn't like everything that I fired was just completely ineffectual. No, there was much bigger factors in play, which I want to cover next. So, I want to get that out of the way. Luck was a factor, but it wasn't the main factor, it wasn't the deciding factor. It maybe just helped my opponent a little bit. Maybe it screwed me over a little bit, but that's it. So there we go. I want to say, for the record, I do not think luck made a huge impact on that battle. I think it helped, but I don't think it was the deciding factor. End of. No more waffle. Let's get on to what I think were the main factors in me losing that battle. Number one, I think the disparity in power of those lists. My opponent's list is one that he is very, very familiar with. It's one that he has been honing for 6 or 7 battles now. Many, many battles. And he has sort of got that perfect brew, that perfect mix. His list, I would say, has come about the same way that my modular list came about. So he played lots and lots of games. He had a solid core. He's dropped some things. He's brought some other things in. He's learnt some tasty combos, and it has started to show. So, for example, he has now started taking a captain and surrounding it with assault cannons. That is absolutely an amazing, tasty combo. It's a good, cheap, relatively cheap fire base for 8th edition. Terminator Captain. He goes to Terminator Captain with the Lightning Claws. 1, because he likes the model, but 2, he could take another basic captain. But every battle he's used that fire base, and he's had that Terminator Captain with Lightning Claws, the Terminator Captain has always had to get his hands dirty. And it's a really effective counter-attack unit because you finally get up close and personal to those Razorbacks, which are spitting out 36 assault cannon shots, all hitting on 3s and rerolling 1s. You finally get close to it, think you're going to start tying it up, and El Clorio comes out, and he just carves through you. He carves through you. He's an absolute beast. So that is a really solid fire base, backed up by a nice counter-attack unit. There's Marines inside those Razorbacks that jump out, they bolter you down. There's Lightning Claw guys that chop you up. It's a really solid fire base. Storm Raven goes without saying. Storm Raven is a really, really powerful model in this edition. The Sanguinary Guard and the Mephiston are a really tasty combo. It's one that my brother actually learnt from having a Blood Angels versus Blood Angels battle. And it's basically, they get, because of the rule of Sanguinary Guard, when they're near the Warlord, and you make Mephiston your Warlord, it means that they get rerolls to hit, I believe. And it just means that they can go into any unit. Mephiston buffs them, so they get, he puts psychic powers on them, so they get 3 attacks per guy. 3 attacks per guy, hitting on 3s, re-rolling hits. Generally means they hit with nearly all their attacks. It's it's 15 attacks, guys, and you often hit with 12, you often wound with 10, and they just cleave through you. They absolutely cleave through you. They're a really, really nasty unit. And they do D3 wounds per one of those swords. Can't complain, one of those weapons in general, I should say, the axes and the swords. And Mephiston himself is an absolute beast, hard as nails, and strength 10 with a sword that hits on 2s, often wounds on 2s, D3 wounds. He's an absolute beast. So he has a Death Star unit there, and then he has a Death Star fire base. So it's essentially an army of 2 Death Stars. Really, but they're 8th edition Death Stars. They're not the traditional sort of wolf star that gets in your face and eats your face off. No, we're seeing this more and more in 8th edition. Death Stars are no longer really, the best ones aren't close combat ones. They're still possible to create close combat Death Stars, but the real Death Stars are shooting ones, where you take a bunch of units, you surround a character that gives them buffs with them, and you just pour firepower into your opponent. Assault cannons are amazing versus Guard, by the way, guys. My opponent's been using them against my Black Templars, and they've been struggling somewhat because they only wound on 3s. Against Imperial Guard, it's basically, with the rerolling 1s, it's like you hit on 2s, it's like you wound on 2s. Oh, powerful stuff, very powerful. So that's my opponent's list in a nutshell. Really well optimized. The guy who's using it really, really knows what he's doing. He knows every unit inside and out. He knows when he shoots something at something statistically, this is what he'll get. On the other hand, I was using a new list, and I was using different combinations, and I was trying out new tactics. So the big thing I want to talk about today, aside from sort of disparity in luck and disparity in list, is the grenade launcher. I took the grenade launcher today in bulk. I took 8 grenade launcher shots, pretty much fired 7 grenade launcher shots every turn for, on average, 5 turns. So what we're looking at, 7 times 5, 35 grenade launcher shots against a variety of targets. I was shooting them against characters, I was shooting them against regular infantry, I was shooting them against multi-wound infantry, and I was shooting them against vehicles. Pretty much shot them against everything they're going to be shot against. And I have to say, my final conclusion, my final opinion on it, I don't like them. I mean, I like grenade launchers from a fluff point of view, just because I don't feel like everyone should be running around with a plasma gun. But guys, pretty much every turn I was there wishing I had taken plasma instead. Wishing so hard I had taken plasma. It's just, put it this way, Mephiston and Sanguinary Guard, they would have been locked down if I'd been shooting plasma guns at them, not grenade launchers. It goes without saying. I mean, essentially, because you fire a crack, I was firing crack grenades because I've never been a big fan of frag grenades, and I often get really bad rolls when it comes to the random number of shots whenever I throw frag grenades. So I thought shooting them a little bit further won't do anything. And my las guns in general were bouncing off the Sanguinary Guard and Mephiston, so I thought I need something with a bit of punch. Let me basically go through what I liked about the grenade launcher and what I didn't like. Number one, the thing I liked about it was the strength 6, the crack grenade strength 6. I found generally when I hit with it, it wounded something. I was putting on plenty of wounds with the crack grenade launcher. The problem with it is its lack of AP. It's only AP -1, and it only does 1 wound. It might do multiple wounds, it might do multiple damage, but only does 1 wound. So when you make your opponent, you fire a crack grenade launcher, or 2 or 3 crack grenade launchers at your opponent. Sorry, when you do 2 or 3 wounds with several grenade launchers to a sanguinary guard, for example, he just takes them obviously one at a time, and it's just 66% chance of passing it every time. And that's what it. That's not that's not difficult for a 2+ wound model, a 2+ save model to do. So whilst I found the grenade launcher was able to wound, it really just didn't bypass my opponent's armor saves. Did not bypass them. Not against tough multiple wound infantry. Interestingly, against regular tactical marines, they were absolutely fine. Generally speaking, against regular tactical marines, if you notice, I killed 10 tactical marines pretty easily in that game. A lot of it was with grenade launchers. It was relatively easy. I just have to say, basically, the grenade launcher, it's good at killing tactical marines. It struggles against multi-wound infantry because outside of Primaris, most multi-wound infantry is elite infantry like Terminators or Sanguinary Guard, for example. Which case, they've got 2+ saves. What I want to get across, guys, is grenade launchers are not good at killing elite infantry. They're not. I theorized, remember I did a video on the autocannon sort of grenade launcher idea, and I theorized that the grenade launcher would be good versus multi-wound infantry. I can tell you now, it's not. The reason it's not is because most multi-wound infantry models have a 2+ save, and that just stops the grenade launcher dead. Right, that's finished with the grenade launcher. Plasma's definitely worth it. Las cannons, I took a lot of las cannons this game, and a lot of missile launchers this game, to try and compare off the two. I feel like both underperformed. Honestly, I'd never used the frag mode on the missile launcher, and I just used the crack mode. And AP -2 is okay, but I just have this weird thing where my opponents are just, this is in all opponents that I face, are really good at passing 5+ saves. 3+ saves, 2+ saves on their tanks, they can't pass with, 3+ saves, 4+ saves, they can't seem to pass on their tanks. But 5+ saves, they pass every single one. It's just a weird glitch in the matrix, guys. Anyway, I thought the rocket launcher was quite good. It was quite a nice surprise to notice it did D6 wounds. It's just a shame that I never rolled higher than a 2 when it came to doing damage. But yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I thought the missile launcher was okay. The jury is still out. I'm gonna have to have a game where I use just like 8 missile launchers. Give it a damn good play testing. Las cannons, good. I enjoyed using my las cannons. I think because it was AP -3. Generally speaking, what happened when I hit something with a las cannon, my opponent wasn't able to make his armor saves with it, and that made a big difference. That made a big difference. So I like las cannons. Missile launchers, I'm kind of umming and ahhing over. I'm gonna have to have a game where I spam them just to understand if they're any good. Grenade launchers, don't see them as being worth it in a competitive game. That was essentially a competitive game with the list that my opponent was using, and I don't feel like grenade launchers were able to stand up to it at all, which is a shame because I love grenade launchers, but don't think they can stand up to it. The last two things I want to mention is infantry squads, spam, and if I can remember to talk about it, power weapons. Infantry squad spam. So this game I wanted to test the concept that For an Imperial Guard army to win, you don't need to lean on conscripts. You can have a few, but it's okay to have more infantry squads, more infantrymen than conscripts. I am not convinced. I don't know. I just don't feel like infantry squads are very efficient for their points. At first, I thought that them being 40 points was too cheap. Now I think 40 points is the perfect level for them. Because to make infantry squads good, you've got to put a lot of points into them. My grenade, I just don't feel like they were doing very well. The amount of shots they outputting weren't great. The order efficiency wasn't great. I had 6 orders, but I had 11 infantry squads. Often meant many of my infantry squads were just trying to rely on their basic capabilities, and well, they can't rely on those very easily. Yeah, I think infantry squads are okay. My conclusion would be from that report that I want to take a 1-to-1 ratio of infantry to conscript. So for every conscript, I need an infantryman. The reason I feel like I've tried this both ways, not in battle reports, but I've tried this both ways, where I've had just pure conscripts, and now I've taken basically pure infantry squads. When I've had the best results in my battles has been when I've taken a really even balance of infantry to conscripts. And I feel like that's what I'm going to do going forwards. I feel like I didn't have enough conscripts in that battle. That's probably the least conscripts I've ever taken in a really, really long time in any Warhammer battle. I always used to say I'd never leave home without 3 blocks of 30. I was really missing my last block of 30 conscripts. That's always the case in 7th edition, and that's the case I felt in this edition as well, in 8th edition. So I'm going to get 30 more conscripts renovated. I'm in the middle of renovating them, you see at the moment. You notice how those ones were, the paint wasn't chipping off and they all had the new backpacks on. Well, I've got another 30 I need to do that too. So I'm going to take 3 blocks of 30 going forward. Yeah, so, and power weapons, have to say, power swords, this is almost like a follow-on video from the last video that I did. Power swords were kind of letting me down. Power fists were doing really, really well. Really enjoyed power fists. So, to conclude in the last couple of minutes, what can we conclude? Well, I would say the go big or go home philosophy is alive and kicking. I think going forward, I am going to embrace, if I want to win a battle, I'm going to have to embrace the go big or go home philosophy. I'm going to have a couple more battles where I take other stuff. So I'm going to have a battle where I take loads and loads of autocannons. I'm going to have a battle where I take loads and loads of missile launchers. I'm going to keep using the fucking grenade launchers for now. I'm going to do a proper scientific experiment, do 3 and do some correlation. So I'm going to use them against a variety of opponents, the grenade launchers. Not just to start these, see how they fare against maybe Chaos and maybe another kind of army. So I'm going to keep using the grenade launcher, but generally speaking, I think going forward for competitive games, it's going to be go big or go home. Las cannons, plasma guns, plasma pistols. That's what I'm going to be running in my infantry squads going forward. I'm going to be taking platoons. If I'm going down the pure infantry route, I'm going to be taking platoons, and each platoon is going to be 30 infantry, 3 infantry squads with 30 conscripts, and a commissar and a company commander. I'm going to take that 4 times, 4 detachments, gives me 15 command points, and gives me 248 infantry. It's a lot of infantry, it's a lot of special weapons, it's a lot of heavy weapons, it's a lot of bodies. I think that will be very successful. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have learned something. It's a bit of a sad story about the grenade launcher being complete cack, but we're going to stick with it for now. I've got 20 of the goddamn things. I've got to try them against a variety of opponents. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. I hope between this and the battle report, you guys have got a lot to think about, a lot to take away. Please, please, please leave a fucking ton of comments. Really, really, really need to get your feedback on things that I did in the battle and your own experiences using grenade launchers. Really need to gather more data on this, guys. I don't like to write something off after one battle, but I just feel like they were really, really shit that game. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Sorry it's dragged on. Hope you found it useful, and I'll see you guys next time.